Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in on BSing Sports, where we are back to giving fantasy advice, start, sit, lineup questions, waiver wire questions, anything that we can help you in regards to fantasy. Uh-oh. I am your host, Ryan. Here with me, as always on the fantasy episodes, is Jake. Jake, thanks for being able to join, man. I appreciate it.
Always happy to be here.
He's not speaking right now. Oh, there he is. Hello. So like I said, we're here to help out with anything fantasy football related. Yes, we did this a lot last year. It's our first time this year. We missed week 1. We had some stuff going on. I was moving to a new house, as you know, if you checked out our episode yesterday. If you did not check out our episode yesterday, go ahead and go on YouTube and do that as well. And make sure you subscribe if you have not done so already. So, first topic today, we got to get into it because this is the most impactful thing when it comes to fantasy football, key injury news. So I have to start out by saying that I was wrong yesterday. I made a bad assumption. I assumed because he had not practiced all week, DeAndre Hopkins was not going to play. As it turns out, he is supposed to play today. Jake, how much would you trust him in your fantasy football lineup with a bunch of no practices and a high ankle sprain?
Honestly, I would still trust him. He is D-Hop, and at the end of the day, he's going to get all the targets, and Ryan Tannehill will hopefully not throw 3 interceptions this week. So,
yeah, I don't think the 3 interceptions is very indicative of Ryan Tannehill. However, he's not Patrick Mahomes, so I can see the concern there. By the way, if you are tuning in on Twitter, go ahead and switch over to the YouTube link, please, so that way you can comment and give us your start sits for us. I would greatly appreciate it. I don't know how much I would trust D-Hop today. Yes, if he's healthy enough to play, you assume he will produce. However, the injury reoccurrence of high ankle sprain is fairly high compared to most other injuries. The fact that wide receivers tend to use their ankles a lot, it leaves them exposed for re-injury risk. However, I don't know that the Titans are just going to be able to. I said, 3 interceptions isn't indicative of Ryan Tannehill. I don't know how much I trust that. So if DeAndre Hopkins is, your wide receiver 2, or even if you were relying on him as a wide receiver 1, I think that is probably going to be a major issue. We have our first comment here. Tim Brandt checks in, says Broncos suck. I think we all agree on the show. So
no, definitely don't. But it's fine.
Everybody's
entitled to the wrong opinions.
I think we do. They are 5-13 since Russell Wilson got there. They suck.
Okay, cool. New season.
And they're 0-1.
It's a long season, bud.
That it is, especially for Broncos fans. It's going to be really long in the form of 18 weeks.
We'll see about
it. Starting Burks today. This is a good question. So, with the DeAndre Hopkins news injury, how do you feel about Treylon Burks? Would you start Treylon Burks today?
Personally, I love Burks. I just don't trust him in the Titans offense. They are a run first offense. We've known that. They've done that for like a decade, it feels like. But Diggs is boomer bust. I can see him, or Diggs, my bad. Burks is boomer bust. He can get you 5 catches and a touchdown, or he can get you nothing. It's just up to Ryan Tannehill and what he wants to do today.
So 90 minutes before kickoff for the 1 o'clock games, which is when the official injury reports come out, Travis Kelce changed from questionable to healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody kind of saw that coming when he was practicing this week. Did you see the video of him, coming out of the practice tunnel and then pretending to be hurt and ended up twerking?
Yeah, no, it's Travis Kelce for sure. It's what he does. But
I do like Burks as a flex play this week. I do.
What do you see his stat line being?
Well, looking at the overall landscape of the game, yes, the Titans do want to run the football. However, we watched the Chargers move down the field with relative ease last week against the Dolphins, and seeing as how the Titans' pass defense is no better than the Dolphins, I would expect that the Titans would have to throw to keep up with the Chargers this week. So I could see a much higher volume passing game, maybe somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 attempts from Ryan Tannehill. And to be honest with you, outside of DeAndre Hopkins, they don't have much. So you could potentially see, 7 to 9 targets for Burks this week. It would not be out of the question for me.
Gotcha. So I want to jump into a start sit situation that I have right now that I think is interesting. Would you
Okay,
rather
let's hear it.
start Cam Akers or Roshan Johnson?
I'm starting Roshan.
Yeah.
If those are my only options, I'm playing Roshan there. Look, I know we probably shouldn't get overly hyped about 1 week. However, Cam Akers in his 1 week looked really abysmal, and he's got probably a harder matchup this week against the 49ers defense, where the Chicago Bears, Roshan Johnson looked excellent, and they're hurting for targets. It looks like they want to throw the ball more than they did last year. I mean, Roshan had 7 targets last week, which is huge. So I'm starting Roshan. I think the PPR upside is there, unlike Cam Akers, and quite frankly, until Cam Akers, proves it with Matthew Stafford and all them boys, I'd probably start Roshan. Easier path to fantasy success for Roshan, in my opinion. Tim Brandt says, actually, Tim Brandt makes a comment here, and it's something that I wanted to touch on. This was the first thing that I wanted to touch on before I found out DeAndre Hopkins was playing. With Aaron Jones out, is A.J. Dillon a must start? Yep. I see an RB2 week from him. He's going to get a lot of the carries there, and he's been known when he fills in for Aaron Jones to get a decent amount of targets as well. So I expect, full bell cow workload there from A.J. Dillon and potentially a touchdown. I'm plugging him in as my RB2 in multiple places this week. I have him in a DFS lineup. It's full go for A.J. Dillon for me. I'm riding that train right there.
Yeah, no, I think A.J. Dillon is going to have his breakout game today. We saw what Aaron Jones can do. A.J. Dillon, I feel like, is just a little bit below that, if not
I
even.
think if he does 80%, 75% to 80% of what Aaron Jones can do, then.
Yeah, I think it will be easy. He is a must start. So, Tim Brandt, hopefully that answers your question.
Another question here from John Ferris: Cam Akers or Brian Robinson? This one's easy to me, but I'll let you go ahead and do your thing.
Honestly, Brian Robinson. After seeing last week, I am a big Antonio Gibson fan, as everybody knows if you listen to the pod. But Brian Robinson looked comfortable, looked effective and fast, and he got, I want to say, like over 70% of the touches. And so with that volume and that offense, and running backs known to kind of be great in fantasy against Denver's defense, I think that's the way you go. Akers is in a timeshare right now. And man, Tim Brand is just on one in the chats right now.
He says Gibson equals S. After that week 1 performance, I would tend to agree. However, as Jake already alluded to, it's a long season. I agree with Jake's take here. I'm going Brian Robinson fairly easily. He is much more effective with his workload. And not only do I trust his matchup a little bit more against Denver versus Cam Akers with San Francisco, I trust his usage a little bit more. Like I said, he's more effective. Eric Bieniemy, I just like the Commanders' offense. Collectively, I am still fairly high on them. Tim with another comment. I know this is kind of terrible for a lineup, but Allen Robinson or MVS, again, very easy here for me, but I'll let you go ahead and answer this.
I know me and Ryan kind of have the same thought process here as far as Kansas City Chiefs receivers. We don't like them at all. And so Allen Robinson for me, I think he put up 12 fantasy points last week with no Deontay Johnson this week.
When Deontay Johnson went out, he filled in on the slot role and got, I think, 8 targets. So to me, we're going to hit the nail on the head here together. It's Allen Robinson fairly easily. I am fading all Chiefs wide receivers in every format except for maybe best ball, but that's a little bit different. So if it's just regular redraft dynasty, regular fantasy football, I'm going Allen Robinson here. I think that the Steelers offense is due for a little bit of positive regression, which is kind of a weird word, but that's, something we use in fantasy. And then I'm going Al Robinson here. John Ferris asks, who has the bounce back week, Chase or Higgins? Well, both would probably be my first answer, considering half of the Ravens' secondary is already ruled out for this game. Marlon Humphrey will not be playing, and one of their safeties is out as well, whose names escape me. But the answer is both, but I guess if you're asking who is more to have the bounce back, it'd be Higgins because he put up a goose egg last week, whereas Chase at least got you a little bit of something.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Both are going to have big games, I think, this week. I think that's going to be a shootout game. It's either going to be a shootout or the Ravens are going to get blown out because I don't know. I don't trust the Ravens offense right now. The only person I trust is Zay Flowers. That seemed to be Lamar's favorite target, but Mark Andrews comes back this week. So who knows what this offense is going to look like. But
it feels like to me that the Ravens were scheming. I mean, they'll scheme targets for Mark Andrews too, of course, but it seems like they were scheming plays specifically designed for Zay Flowers. Now, will that continue? Who knows? It was kind of a sloppy offensive performance last week, as you already alluded to, but I think you can comfortably fire up Zay Flowers as a wide receiver 3 flex. I wouldn't quite call him wide receiver 2 yet. I would like to see multiple weeks of the kind of usage he had last week.
Yeah, no, sounds about right to me.
Cam Brandt asks, is Devontae Adams playing? From what I know, yes, he is.
Yeah, I was about to. I read that and I was like trying to look it up real quick to see if there was any news on it. He should be playing. There's no doubt about that, and he is the receiving core for them.
Especially with Jacoby Myers out.
Yep, Myers is out with concussion. Rest in peace. But
yep. But yeah, if you're watching this video, go ahead and just tap that like button right now for me. That'll go ahead and it spreads us around. It's free. What's the word I'm looking for? Advertising. There we go. Just go ahead and tap the like button. Give us a reaction. And if you're feeling a little frisky, go ahead and give us a share as well. We would greatly appreciate that here. So back to the injuries. Yes, Tim kind of stole my thunder. AJ Dillon is my big play this week. Our running back 2 with running back 1 upside potentially, especially if the Packers offense looks as good as they did last week.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm trying to think of any start and sits that are big this week. I feel like it's a change of guard. Like we're learning a bunch of new things about the NFL as far as players that are going to step up and what offenses are looking like with the new OCs.
So who do you think is the play this week? So we watched Puka Nuke, #Puka Nuke go off last week. But Tutu Atwell had a pretty good game in his own right, 17.2 fantasy points, if I'm not mistaken. So who would you feel more comfortable playing in your lineup this week with the injury to Puka Nacua?
So Tutu plays in the slot, right? Only the slot?
Yeah, I think he took a majority of snaps from the slot, so he seems more likely to give up his role when Cooper Kupp comes back.
Well, until Cooper Kupp comes back, that's who I would want to play because I don't think Matthew Stafford's going to have enough time to get the ball to Puka Nacua on those 15-yard ends. And so at the end of the day, I think he's dumping the ball off to Tutu on those slants, on the quick outs before that defense, which is ferocious, gets to him.
Yeah. Everett Golson here asks, can we get a 360-degree jersey check? Ladies first, Jake. Go ahead.
Oh, me? Well, I'm sporting, in honor of his first week playing this year, the one and only Jerry Jeudy. Godspeed. Probably can't even see it. But that one is for you, Everett Golson, whoever you may be. Hope you enjoyed it.
So, naturally, boys were 2-0 to start the week, so I had to wear the big 2-0.
What a safety.
Baby himself. Yeah, what a safety. He was not a Denver Bronco at all. Definitely a Philadelphia Eagle. I was actually going to be, I thought it would be a little funny if you like kind of whipped out a Denver Broncos Brian Dawkins jersey. I would have thought that would have been pretty cool.
Oh man, so all my old school jerseys got stolen. So when I was deployed,
Man.
so yeah, I had to start from scratch with all new players.
So it's funny you say that. The only, I guess, new school jerseys that I have are jerseys that I've won in bets. I personally only buy jerseys for legends. Like I've bought Brian Dawkins, Fletcher Cox. I bought Marvin Harrison. I bought like just guys who are, you think of the player, you think of that team, like Jason Kelsey's probably going to be my next one that I buy. Um, I only buy legends. I don't buy, Miles Sanders was won for me in a bet, but Miles Sanders isn't even an Eagle anymore. That's why I wouldn't buy his jersey, not that early, right? So same thing with Carson Wentz. John Ferris asks, Zach Moss or Alan Lazard in flex spot? Again, this is fairly easy for me. I'm going Zach Moss, man. I'm not trusting the number 2 in the Jets. I would have been, 50-50 on this if Aaron Rodgers was playing, but with Zach Wilson, no. Just no.
I honestly, this is a toss-up to me because we don't know if Zach Moss is going to get the majority of the carries. He's probably the best back in that backfield, but Alan Lazard can, possibly get a touchdown, can get 3 or 4 catches in the slot with Zach Wilson, who clearly does not like throwing to Garrett Wilson. So that's a
No, he
toss-up for
doesn't.
me, but at the end of the day, we do not trust Zach Wilson, and so
Yeah.
Zach Moss would be my pick there.
Well, that and one, Evan Hull's on IR. So, and Deion Jackson, with the majority of the workload he got last week, didn't do anything with it. So I imagine that they will give Zach Moss a healthy workload of touches early on. Thank you for the question, John. Michael P on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, Michael. If you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and do so. We'll be here every Sunday. Michael Thomas or Cortland Sutton? I don't want to hear this shit from you, Jake. I don't want to hear it, but go ahead. I'm gonna have to sit here through this.
So we all know I love Cortland Sutton, and with Jerry coming back, Cortland Sutton should get 5-6 catches, but we don't know, and we know what Michael Thomas can do. We saw what he could do last week. That offense is probably going to put up more passing yards than Denver this week, so I would have to go Michael Thomas as much as that hurts me. I do have a wager with one Tim Fantasy Montgomery himself for Cortland Sutton going over 1,000 yards. But
and you will not looking good.
Not looking we'll good.
See. So to me, it's Michael Thomas, right? In a game where they didn't put up a ton of points, they being the Saints offense, Michael Thomas still had 8 targets, 5 catches, 61 yards. He looks like, maybe he's cemented himself as the number 2. Chris Olave had a fantastic game week 1. But the targets are going to be there. There's going to be room to spread the ball around, especially with no Alvin Kamara early on in the season. So I am comfortably playing Michael Thomas over Cortland Sutton. I don't think Cortland Sutton is anybody that you can trust. Cortland Sutton has 5 touchdowns since 2020, so the touchdown upside isn't really evident with Cortland Sutton. And as we saw, the Broncos offense they still don't look good with Russell Wilson. So I'm taking Mike Thomas here fairly easy.
Fair enough.
Real quick before we answer that question, Ken, Tim Brandt said, here we go again. Sutton 5-6 catches my ass. He did have 5 catches last week for a measly 32 yards. So is 5 catches out of the realm? No. Is him doing anything with those 5 catches going to happen? No.
We'll see. It all comes down to it. We'll see.
Also, I did watch the play again where you were referencing that if he did not get PI'd with, he being Cortland Sutton, he would have had 100 yards. Bro, it was like a 30-yard pass play. How was he going to get 100 yards?
That's fine. The whole game dynamic changes.
Also, the ball wasn't catchable.
Like he got pulled. That's why it wasn't catchable.
Bro, he dove for the ball after he got pulled, and it didn't even hit his hand. He didn't even come close.
He got pulled. It doesn't matter. Cam Brandt's got a great question here. We're not here to just talk about Denver.
Do the Jets make the playoffs with Wilson as QB? Do they?
If they do, it will be as the number 7 wild card spot. They would 10-7 get you into the playoffs, and that defense is elite. They got playmakers all around, so it's not out of the question with Zach Wilson. It's just way harder without a Hall of Famer like Aaron Rodgers to throw the ball to.
I guess this all depends on how much did Zach Wilson absorb from Aaron Rodgers, because as you know, he was on record saying he was going to make Aaron Rodgers' life a living hell. So we'll see if that actually happened, or maybe he actually learned something from the future Hall of Famer himself. It's a good question. I think 9-8 you could probably, as long as you win the right matchups, I think 9-8 could probably get you the 7th seed in the wild card.
Fair enough.
Just my take on it. So, something else we like to do: player predictions. You got any standout players?
Standout players this week for me. Man,
I put them on the spot. By the way, we
did.
improv this whole thing, so I put them on the spot. See how much research he did.
Oh, I did nothing. I was busy all morning. I walked 2.5 miles. Walked Millie.
There you go.
So, and then I was cleaning the house. So, very little research here. So I apologize, folks. But I say Joshua Kelly goes off this week without holy cow, Eckler.
Eckler. I think that's Go ahead.
I think that's the move. I think they run the score up so early that he gets all the carries. He's just nonstop gonna be the bell cow, and I can't wait to see it. I have him in some DFS, so hopefully that comes true. But that is my player prediction for a breakout game.
Another piece of fantasy injury news: Amari Cooper is rumored unlikely to play Monday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is game-changing for both our picks and fantasy, because if you are relying on Amari Cooper in your lineup, I would highly suggest you pivot to somebody else now, especially if your backup player, plays in the 1 o'clock window on Sunday. I would go ahead and ride that there. And if Amari Cooper ends up playing, there's nothing you can do about it. However, that's not a risk you can take with it being Monday night.
Christian Watson's not playing, so take him out.
Yep, Watson's not playing. We've got some injuries here pretty early in the season, so it's creating some opportunities for fantasy. With that being said, Joshua Kelly, I think that's a trap play, man. There's something in me. So Joshua Kelly starts without Austin Eckler, have never been that efficient or that good. He's never been heavily involved in the passing game. Is the Chargers offense different this year? Yes. So there's some touchdown upside, but to me, it just feels like a trap. It's almost like people are like, oh, Josh Kelly's going to take on this Austin Eckler role plus what he did last week. I don't know, man. I got him somewhere in the low, maybe mid RB2 range, but Tennessee plays a stout run defense, and they are bad against the pass. So I expect the Chargers to move the football through the air the way that they can.
Going back to, I think it was Kim Brandt that asked the Devontae Adams question. Yep. Kimberly A. Martin on Twitter just interviewed him following warm-ups, and he assured her that his foot feels good and 0 issues. So there's your question.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Because that would be devastating to Devontae Adams owners. I have 0 shares of Devontae Adams.
No, so do I. I just don't trust Josh McDaniels, but that's fine. I like this one by John Ferris.
You and I touched on the fact that they're all offseason on the pod. If you haven't listened, or if you think we're lying, go ahead and go back and listen to our episodes. Mac Jones getting a real offensive coordinator in there was going to do great wonders for his fantasy output, despite the fact that they don't have any real weapons. But I'm going to piggyback off that. My surprise player. This isn't too much of a surprise, but I think big game here for Ramondre Stevenson. I think that the way that they utilize their backs in the passing game, right? Stevenson had 6 targets, caught all 6 last week. Miami gives up notoriously a ton of points to running backs because they play very well on the outsides on cornerbacks. So I see Ramondre Stevenson potentially going for, a boom game here, maybe 20 plus.
A boom game, he says. I hope so. I have some Stevenson shares in a bunch of my fantasy leagues, so that would be awesome.
I do too. Thanks to you, actually. I only have 1 share.
Oh, yeah, I definitely am happy with the Najee trade at this current moment in my life.
Yeah, I would be too. I mean, I don't hate it. It's not like Tank Bigsby has come out and done anything to really make that trade go one way or the other yet. With the pitch count, I think Hall will have a breakout game. I don't understand. Tim, you and I talked about this yesterday off the air, I believe. Jake, our very own co-host, Jake, is trying to offload his Brees Hall shares. Jake, why don't you go ahead and explain the rationale behind that? Well, you traded him in one league. I forget what the offer was, but Tim told me about it, and I was like, I would comfortably take the Brees Hall side there, and you put him on the block in another league.
Yeah, no, so the league I put him on the block in was our auto league. And so my thought process behind that is I am 100% rebuilding. And like I like Brees Hall and I like what he brings to the table. But with Aaron Rodgers going down, I just think teams are going to load the box. It's just going to be rough to try and stop him. They don't respect Zach Wilson, and I think he is a phenomenal football player. And
Yeah,
so
I mean, I really like Brees Hall too. I think the talent is extraordinary. He is still in a pitch count, so maybe his early numbers won't be as great. Yes, I know last week he had a fantastic game, but if you look into the underlying numbers, he didn't get a lot of opportunities, and he's not about to average 25 yards a carry every single game for the season. It's just not it's an unrealistic expectation. John Ferris says, I want to pick your brains. We are all ears, my man.
Yep, we are here for any fantasy football questions you have. Along with
Everett
not
Golson
fantasy
says,
football questions.
Everett Golson says Sam Howell will go off today. While John is typing out his question, Sam Howell will go off today. We have both kind of beaten the drum for Sam Howell in the offseason. You more so than me. However, the upside's there. In his 2 career starts, he has 2 rushing touchdowns. So,
I love Sam Howell. He's just playing my Denver Broncos today, so I will not be starting him. I think that secondary, I think he throws 1 interception minimum.
he also does have 2 interceptions in his 2 career starts. So
he's a gunslinger. He will make mistakes. He's young. He's a rookie, and that defense is good.
He's not a rookie.
Oh, he's not. He's basically a rookie. He didn't play last year. This is his first year. So I get what you mean, but Everett Golson. Hopefully he doesn't go off just for the sake of my mental state, but it's fine.
Hey, man, you got to fire him up on your fantasy teams wherever you have him, right? To kind of hedge your bets there.
Oh, yeah?
Unless the Broncos end up losing a game like 7-0 where Brian Robinson gets a rushing touchdown and that's it. In which case, yeah. So Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce expected to play on a quote-unquote pitch count, so to speak. I'm not buying it.
No, you're not buying it?
Pitch count will be relative. I still see 70 to 75% of the snaps. 1, I think it's going to be a shootout, right? The Jags also have good offense. 2, we saw what happened last week when Kelce wasn't on the field. Mahomes, yeah, they might say in the media or on the practice field that they can trust each other, but ultimately, especially in Kadarius Toney, my trust would be a little shaken after last week. So I think Travis Kelce gets a comfortable enough amount of work, especially in the red zone, that he will still put up at least close to, if not usual, Travis Kelce fancy numbers.
Yeah, fair enough. I want to ask you a question because, I mean, I was going to save this for Monday, but we're here now. DeAndre Swift.
What about him?
how do you think he can repeat the numbers he put up, the
175
170?
yards. I mean, he might do it one more time throughout the season, but that's not something that I would expect consistently. And being 100% honest with you, like, I don't even know that. I know people are like, there's no way Kenny Gainwell can get the job back. Like, I still don't believe that DeAndre Swift or Kenny Gainwell is going to come out and get all the touches again. I don't think it's going to be like week 1. I don't think it's going to be like week 2. There's going to be some middle ground there. Do I think DeAndre Swift is a more talented back? Yes, but I think that there are certain things that Kenny Gainwell does better than DeAndre Swift that would keep him relevant in the offense. So Tim says best offensive line in football. It's very true. Very true.
Not biased. Holy cow, John Ferris.
Not bias. What do you mean by that? Everybody knows the Eagles' offensive line is the best line in football.
Yeah, debatable. I mean, it's always debatable.
Who's better?
Huh? I don't know
Who's
off the top of
better?
my head. I have
Exactly.
zero idea. Oh my god.
That's what I like to hear. After seeing the way the Patriots played against the Eagles last week, both offense and defense look great, minus the 2 early turnovers. Do you guys possibly think the Patriots can win the division? Rodgers out now. Josh Allen is a choker. And Dolphins, besides their offense being good, their defense looks bad against the Chargers. I give the Patriots a less than 5% chance to win that division. I don't think Josh Allen is a choker. As we've alluded to on the show yesterday, and I text you, Jake, and the guys in the fantasy group, Josh Allen has had 3 games in his since the beginning of last year, not in his career, since the beginning of last year, he has had 3 games where his passing numbers have been held to under 10 points for fantasy football purposes. Those 3 games, the opponents were the Jets, and the Jets. Josh Allen plays bad against the Jets. It's the same way that Joe Burrow plays bad against the Cleveland Browns. We don't really know why it happens. But to call Josh Allen a choker, I mean, this is a team that's won the division, 3 years in a row now? I mean, they're clearly the best team over an 18-week, 17-week stretch in the AFC East. I would give Miami more of a chance to beat them because of the way that the NFL set up for offensive explosiveness. I don't think the Patriots were ever going to be a bad football team. I think that getting a real offensive coordinator was going to be huge for them, but I don't think that they can compete with Josh Allen or even the Miami Dolphins offense yet.
Yeah, no. To me, it's still going to be the Bills. They still have people that are going to come back on the defense that were hurt. They just have, like, no offense to Tua, the best quarterback in the division is Josh Allen, along with Diggs and James Cook look good. And Kincaid, when he did, he looked fast and he looked big for a tight end. So I just think they're going to figure it out, and it's their division. The Dolphins might push for it, but New England,
I
5%
agree.
is a solid bet for that.
Yeah, I think Miami's offense is very explosive. Their defense has holes. The Bills are just the most complete team in that division. And I've been on record saying that I don't think the Bills' offense is particularly good, but quite honestly, the Patriots just don't have the weapons to keep up with any of these teams. Scheming on the defensive end is going to be huge for them all season. But if they go ahead and face elite level offenses like the Bills or the Eagles, they're going to lose in similar fashions to the way that they lost last week. They just don't have the offensive firepower to keep up with these other teams.
Makes sense to me.
Now, that could be proven wrong today because Patriots play the Miami Dolphins, but I think that the Dolphins offense is going to be hard for them to stop. They can slow them down, but stopping them is going to be something entirely different.
Oh, yeah. No, sorry. In our Drunk Traders League, I'm playing Joey this week, and I was trying to figure out how he started Swift, but then I was looking at it who would you have started this week, McKinnon or Swift, before you knew Swift was going to go big?
Swift, because Kenneth Gainwell was out.
Fair enough. Man, I'm kind of excited. If Cooper doesn't play, I think Elijah Moore has a big game.
Elijah Moore had 7 targets. That was very impressive to me. We both talked about Deshaun Watson's history of targeting his number one guy quite frequently throughout a game. And, the targets were kind of spread around last week for the Cleveland Browns. I'm very surprised. Speaking of Jerick McKinnon, Tim, please give me your share of Jerick McKinnon. Thank you.
In what league?
He has him somewhere. I think it's No Chance 2. I think it's the one you're not in.
I got you. Okay, so Alexander Madison or let me change this because Madison already played. Brian Robinson or Rashad, man.
Rashad.
Yeah, Rashad
I
White.
know yeah, that's kind of who I figured you were going to say. I'm still going Brian Robinson here. I know it's not a fantastic matchup, comparatively speaking, for Robinson versus White, but White is extremely inefficient, and I don't trust the Buccaneers offense, especially against when they had a lackluster defense like the Vikings, who had 34 put up on them, and they got mauled all over the ground by the Eagles. Rashad White didn't do anything. So I'm kind of fading Rashad White unless you have to. Yeah, he'll get most of the backfield work, most of the targets out of the backfield, most of the touches out of the backfield. They're not going to be quality touches. I just don't trust the Buccaneers offense. So
you ready for this doozy?
Go ahead.
That I have to make this decision in one of my leagues, in the Pee Wee Football League. Robert Woods, Cortland Sutton, Zach Charbonnet, or Ezekiel Elliott. Which one are you taking? I know one of those is a clear not taking him, and that's Zeke, but
Zeke had 7 targets last week. And again, they play the Dolphins, who are bad at stopping running backs.
What are you thinking? For those listening, Zeke plays Miami, as he just said. Zach Charbonnet plays.
Zach Charbonnet's out for me.
Yeah. Robert Woods plays the Colts, but he had a bunch of targets in week 1. And then Cortland Sutton plays Washington. And Cortland Sutton did put up a touchdown and 5 catches last week. So
look at him hyping up his own guy. He just said Robert Woods had a bunch of targets, but he knows every single number from Cortland Sutton's line.
I don't trust CJ Stroud. I don't trust him to run that offense yet. I got to see it. So my answer is Cortland Sutton.
My answer is Robert Woods.
Yeah.
1, the Indianapolis secondary gives up a fair amount of points, fantasy points, to wide receivers. 2, the Texans will be playing from behind, presumably. So they will have to throw the ball in the same fashion that they did last week. 3, Robert Woods got more targets and did more with them, really, than Cortland Sutton. If you take away the touchdown, because as we've talked about a lot, touchdowns are kind of a hit and miss fluky stat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking Robert Woods, 10 targets. He's the veteran receiver. He still looks like he's arguably the number 1 there. And with Jerry Jeudy coming back, Cortland Sutton is at least the number 2.
Fair enough. And then tight end question for you. Zach Ertz, Dalton Schultz, or Jawan Johnson?
Ertz,
really?
Ertz, another 10 target guy last week. If you have Ertz, he's probably a weekly play. Like, if he did not tear his ACL, he is in that tier 2 with, from a season by season perspective, he's like a tier 2 tight end. Obviously, when it comes to dynasty rankings, it's a little different because he's older. But from a what is he going to do week by week and like this season output, he's like a tier 2 tight end. Like, he's a very comfortable bet to finish as a tight end 1. Zach Ertz has to be played on a weekly basis.
Sounds good. Those were some questions. Anybody in the chat got somebody that they want to throw up?
Yeah. If not, it's nice to know that my college and NFL teams that I root for are undefeated. I can just sit and watch football today. I don't have to stress about that.
Well, that's no fun. Man, dude.
But that being said, 42, 43 minutes is a pretty good number. Don't forget to check us out here every week, guys, at 11:30. We will post on Twitter if for some reason we cannot be here. But the Twitter is at BSing_sports. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Go ahead and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, the whole 9 yards. Every week, Sunday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. Please tune in and give us all your fantasy football questions. Jake, do you have anything else before we sign out?
Yes, the Broncos beat the Commanders, and Tim Brandt's going to lose half his fantasy leagues at least this week. So
some bold predictions there, ladies and gentlemen, from Jake. He is still a Broncos hopeful for whatever